I started getting pretty deep into this, and I don't know, part of me felt good taking walks in the woods near my cabin, trying to figure this out. And I decided that I need to get a fresh perspective. Maybe I've been listening to people that agree with me too much, so I wanted to try to get somebody that maybe believes in cryptids, is really interested and invested in cryptid creatures. So I I kind of went looking and came up empty, but I did know that there was this guy Bobby from that one time I was abducted by aliens podcast, and every once in a while, those girls brought on this guy to do a show about cryptid creatures, and he seemed really interested and engaged and knowledgeable about all of this stuff. So I thought maybe, yeah, we got to bring in a guy like that and just hear what he has to say about the footage. So I was lucky to get him to come here and just tell me what he thinks of the footage. And this is one of those times where all the stars just kind of align, and you know somebody that can contribute to the project you're working on. This was one of those times, and I was fortunate, and hey, I got to take you guys with me into this largely uncensored conversation. Let's get into it, friends.
You are extremely knowledgeable about all different cryptid creatures, orang pendek, and the dinosaurs and the Loch Ness monsters and all of this stuff.
Sure.
So I wanted to ask you to look at this footage and just give your general thoughts on Todd Standing in general and this footage. Is
Okay.
this the face of Bigfoot?
Can I kind of preface a little bit before we jump into the footage?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So I was thinking about this a lot since you asked me to do this. One thing I want to bring up is in this world of, high strangeness, conspiracy, whatever you want to call it, we talk a lot about how even the most prominent establishment science or academia or media, we're very quick to point out that they're not immune to corruption or agenda, right? And maybe it is the best that we have, that all things considered, we agree on a dominant consensus about things and kind of work from there. But you have people in these institutions, and it's no secret, that are motivated by things other than, raw objective science. And I think even Todd alludes to this a little bit in his documentary as well. But these people have more or less dedicated their lives to presenting evidence to construct a dominant narrative based on their theories. And inherently, I think that this means that there always is, on some level at least, an element of ego on the line, sometimes an agenda, sometimes monetary incentives. So when someone comes along with some fringe theories that challenge the status quo, the purveyors of that status quo will often seem to respond with resistance or smearing or scoffing. Names like Graham Hancock and Robert Schoch kind of come to mind when I think about that. But ultimately, what these people, these, I guess, guardians of the status quo, is they're protecting their legacy or their agenda or their credibility or their influence or their source of income, whatever it may be. And I think it's important for us, people that are seriously serious about seeking truth and this kind of thing, is that this phenomenon, if you want to call it that, this human nature behavior, it doesn't have to be exclusive, and it isn't only exclusive to, I guess, like dominant mainstream institutions. I think all people in groups are vulnerable to intentional or even unintentional corruption on both, I guess, like micro or macro levels. So all that said, if we apply this model to the investigator of high strangeness, you have some at least potential for similar interruptions in the science, if you will. So I think everyone's capable of rationalizing. I think a lot of ends justifying the means kind of things go into that. That's a different ethical conversation altogether. But everyone's capable of doubling down when they're faced with opposition to their claims. So I guess my point is, if we're going to be cognizant of human nature and corruption with dominant institutions, as we are quickly to do from this side of the aisle, it's only fair to practice that level of discernment for individuals as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So all that said, I'm speaking in generalities here. I want to be careful, and I want to look at this footage as diplomatically as possible. I am not a field researcher. I'm not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just a guy that's been into these types of topics for as long as I can remember. So over the years, I've just kind of snowballed my knowledge here and there, and for whatever reason, it's filled my brain up.
Yeah, I figured that you would be qualified to look at this footage and offer your opinion, because you have digested all of the available evidence, mostly of different cryptid creatures and the different things throughout the years, and maybe some of the Bigfoot hoaxes as well.
Sure.
So I wanted to get your opinion of what you think of the actual footage. Is it the face of Bigfoot or something else?
Okay. This is my raw gut reaction. I am not interested in the politics of high strangeness, if you will, but I can look at this in a vacuum as a person and try to give you my thoughts on it.
Excellent. So where did you want to begin? I've sent you these.
Let me take a look at the. I guess we'll start with part 1. Let me find your thing.
Yeah, and I called this Bigfoot Face 1. There's several different Bigfoot face videos in his documentary.
Okay, so just looking at that in a vacuum, if we're looking at this with a discerning eye, I'm not on one side or the other with it, but instinctually, and maybe it is confirmation bias because I'm not a full-blown believer per se, because I personally haven't experienced anything. But my gut tells me, of all the face footage provided by this gentleman, for better or worse, I guess it's the most compelling.
Yeah, this is the best one, I guess. I thought the same thing.
At a high bar, right? There's no reason why that can't be prosthetics or spirit gum. I feel like the hair is a little bit too, like, Grandpa Munster, or like it's a little too prepared, a little too groomed before having shot this.
Yeah, like Bigfoot has hairspray somehow.
Right. It's got like some Aquanet, like and then I'm shutting out all the attempts that I've seen with people overlapping his face on top of this and all that. But my gut reaction to this one is this, as far as face footage goes, this is the best, and it's just my intuition raises quite a few red flags.
Yeah, fair enough.
And if there's anyone that wants that footage to be a real Bigfoot more than Todd Standing himself, it's me.
Yeah, I felt the same way. It's like I want it to be real, but my desire for it to be real doesn't make it so. Right. Okay, we can go to the second one.
So, as I mentioned with the first one we just saw there, it's almost like providing all this footage or providing all this evidence as a bundle doesn't necessarily help your case, because I can kind of 50-50 give the benefit of the doubt to that first one we just looked at. This, I get a lot of Frank Oz, Jim Henson vibes from this.
Yeah.
This reminds me, there is a scene in Return of the Jedi where C-3PO is describing to the Ewoks the story of the explosion of the first Death Star, and there's a quick shot of a little baby Ewok shuddering in fear. And it doesn't look exactly like this, but it definitely reminds me.
Yeah, Ewok vibes. Yeah,
I get mad Ewok vibes. And here's the thing, and I'm going to bring it up with the Blackface one as well, is like there's no consistency here to, you know, thread it all together as like the same species per se. You'd think there would be a little more continuity as to make these things look like they're the same, you know,
species, right? Yeah, that was my thought as well. They look like totally separate species. You know, there's the problem that I have, and I like that point you raised, that putting these together actually raises more questions than it supports his case, because, you know, all orangutans have the same general skin tone. All chimpanzees have the same general skin tone. All gorillas have the same general skin color, skin tone. These things all are different. And that doesn't make sense to me if it's supposed to be the same species of cryptid creature.
So yeah, considering the let's say this all is legitimate footage of a relic hominid, right? Let's pretend that it definitely is. It's very unfortunate that that is what they look like, if given, you know, trying to convince someone that it is real, right? So like,
yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? So it's like there's no consistency. They all look like if in the response from someone presenting this as real evidence would typically be something like, well, Bigfoots are a lot like people and they look different in different regions.
I've heard that argument. Yeah.
Granted,
they're individuals. They're individuals.
Varieties of it, but as far as I know, this is all the footage from the documentary, and it's supposedly in the same location, and
it's supposed to be the same tribe of Bigfoot. He said it's a tribe of them. Yeah.
Todd Standing, I want it to be real, and I want to get on board, but geez, Louise.
Yeah. We could go to the third one then.
Okay.
Oh, so this is the black-faced man, or black-faced Bigfoot.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I have thoughts on this one.
Yeah, me too. But here, I don't want to influence any of our, people that are offering their opinions. So I'm waiting to hear what you have to say about this before I'll chime in with any of my own opinions. And I'll show you something after we're finished, looking at this, because I thought that I nailed exactly how he did this, but I was actually wrong.
The first thing I'll say is, and I'm going to say this about the movement footage as well, where it's not the faces, but the first thing I'll say about this is there's absolutely no reason why that couldn't be a human.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think a mask is necessary to create that, what we're seeing there. The other big red flag with this one for me was the hairline. So if you look at the hairline from the first footage and even the little Ewok one, unless this guy has like male pattern balding going on,
it's a bald Bigfoot, yeah,
like Hulk Hogan hair or something. But if you look at the first one from the same tribe, it's got hair all the way down to the brow, and this one seems to just have a pronounced forehead with charcoaly skin. Again, the big thing for me though, outside of providing the evidence as a group, is the fact that even if that is a real face of a real Bigfoot, in context, there's no reason why it couldn't be a human, right?
I agree.
Just 'cause that is not something that's difficult to create. We could do that in the backyard.
Yeah, this is exactly what I thought, and I believed at first that it was perhaps just a mask, a black-faced mask, but when I looked at it further, I believe that it's a human with black grease paint or charcoal, some form of makeup. That and then again, it makes no sense to me that these other Bigfoot creatures from the same tribe have a totally. It's like, is this the African American version of that Bigfoot? I don't understand. Right. Like, why is his skin completely and totally black like a gorilla, and all of the others have much lighter skin tone or skin color? Yeah,
and it's really baffling to. I mean, the more we talk about this, the more it gets dodgier, because the more I think about it, why wouldn't if you were going to do a hoax, which I will not say one way or the other, I'm just giving you my opinion on the footage, but if you were going to do a hoax and present it as one package, why wouldn't you think about these things beforehand?
Yeah.
It's almost like the inverse of. It's very similar to like the Patty. You know how Patty in the Patterson Gimlin film has like breasts, and people like, well, why would she have breasts if it was a hoax? It's like, well,
I that one thing really always bothered me because I
right.
can't. I go, why would they, if they're trying to make a hoax? Yeah, why would they put breasts on this thing? But then I thought, what an excellent convincer, you know?
Right. So this is almost like a twisted, weird logic,
Yeah.
in some weird way, as far as presenting the evidence that we're looking at here. I think there's a similar thread between those two lines of thought. So yeah, I think the breasts in the Patterson Gimlin film definitely lend it credibility. Whereas, you know, it's almost like we intentionally made these not look real so that you would think that they were real. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like mind fuck, if you ask me. So.
Yeah. And so the last one, the last money shot from the documentary, and again, we took all of the money shots, what I'm calling the money shots from the documentary, and we are, we just zoomed in a little bit, cleaned it up, tried to make it clearer. This last footage to me is the worst of it, and I just call this Running Man footage because there's something off in the background, and you can't clearly see. Is it somebody in a guinea suit, or a camo suit, or is it somebody in a gorilla suit? Who knows? It's not great footage, but I wanted to see what you thought of that as well, because to me this one was the weakest. I thought it could be anything running in the background there, and the framing of it seems convenient. Like he can't get the thing in frame.
Yeah, you'd think your instinct would be to tilt up quite a bit more than if you look at the very beginning of it. You can clearly see there's something walking up a mountain, but there's not an immediate attempt to tilt up. And then again, I mean, this is just like there's no reason to immediately jump to Bigfoot. There's just not. Even aside from kind of these, I mean, these are supposed to be well adapted, forest men that can fluidly travel up and down mountainsides and what. That looks kind of awkward, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
Is the footage is a little bit okay, I see yeah. The direction of the camera doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, and then even if you were to shoot that perfectly, I can't rule out not a
person. Yeah.
Or not a person. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just seems convenient to me, the framing of it. Like how are you not getting the whole thing in frame? You're only getting half of it in the frame. It just seems to me to be conveniently shaky and
and I think that's kind of I think that is maybe was part of the appeal, as well as not like you always criticize evidence that's like perfect, right? You're like, wow, how'd you get it so like steady and like but it almost like they're like accounting for that criticism, but it almost feels contrived in that sense as well, like from the other end. So I don't know, like, are we gonna Blair Witch it, or are we gonna Stanley Kubrick it? I don't know, something in between, I guess.
Well, one of the other things I wanted to ask you about is that I found evidence that Todd Standing used stills of these films. I found that it was very, very convenient that in all these Bigfoot face shots, there is branches or different leaves, different things obscuring the face. And then I found that he had basically, I believe, multiple takes, because he has stills where the stick is on this side. Then he has stills where the stick is on this side, or the leaf moves over here, or it doesn't make any sense. And I tried to say, well, maybe the stick moved or fell, or it's a branch. No, it seemed very clear to me that he took multiple takes of this footage and then took stills. And in each of these films, it's very convenient that there is, an attempt to obscure or, hide parts of the face. And also in the blinking bothered me. I went and I looked at footage of different ape species, gorillas, orangutans, and monkeys too, in the wild. And their heads move, they blink, their brows move, they chew. Maybe
Mhm.
they're eating something. There's just not enough movement in these shots to me. There's no blinking in most of it, except for the black faced one. So there's just a lot of problems with the footage. And I thought it was funny, like Joe Rogan is not a fan of this guy, Todd Standing, and
Right.
said, if Bigfoot people think you're full of shit, you're probably full of shit.
Right.
And as far as the
Um,
black man, the blackface footage, I thought I nailed him.
mm,
I thought
you
I
didn't even
got
have to
it.
go that far, but yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
close.
I'm gonna solo this, and look, you could see if I put it in front of my face. If I lined up a
That,
shot right with leaves and things around just like that, and I just blinked, and you're only
right.
going to see this small portion of the face. I thought, I have a huge collection of masks and weird things, and I went through my stuff because I remembered this mask, and I said, that could be a very easy way to accomplish that shot.
Mhm.
And I even for a time thought, I'm like trying to match up the brow ridges and stuff. Maybe this is the exact thing that he used, but I don't think so any longer. It doesn't quite match. But I'm sure I could recreate that footage very well with something like as a $10 foam mask,
Sure. Or my thought on that is there's no mask. It's just like
grease paint. That's what I believe. Yeah.
going in, you watch those old like Marine Corps recruitment commercials. There's dudes with like that black shit on their face.
Yeah, yeah. And as far as the walking or the running footage, one time, I have a cabin in the mountains and I hike a lot. One time I was hiking in the mountains during hunting season. And there was a guy, I don't know, is it called a guinea suit or gunny
Ghillie
suit? Those, yeah, ghillie suit. Yeah. So out of the corner of my eye, I see a guy like jumping up the trail, like,
Mhm.
booking too. And at first glance, I thought that might be that could be a Bigfoot. It looked very
Sure.
similar to this footage that we see. It's just this whole suit of stuff, and it looks inhuman or something. So I guess most of me is left very unconvinced because I believe that I could recreate all of this footage at my cabin in the backyard, really,
Sure. Yeah, it boils down, especially in this day and age, it's going to boil down to putting a body on a slab. I don't personally care about proving the existence one way or the other. It would be interesting, I guess, but I just, I gravitate towards the phenomenon in general. But like with this stuff, it's like he got dudes that I respect.
That's another issue.
And
yeah, him and Jeff Meldrum.
And Meldrum, and I'm just like I get it though, like especially in these these kind of niche areas of study or whatever, like I'll listen to anybody, but I'm gonna be honest about how I feel about it, and if that hurts someone's feelings, sorry. I mean, it's just the way it is. I'm gonna be honest, but it's just very it's very weird to me that those two signed on to this.
Yeah, and one of them who has passed away, the wildlife biologist,
Sure,
he basically endorsed the footage as genuine. But I found it odd that you would have Jeff Meldrum in your documentary, and Jeff Meldrum never comments on whether he believes this is real footage or not.
Yeah,
I've reached out to Mr. Dr. Meldrum, I don't know, many times. I've left him voicemails, I've sent him emails, and I simply want him to tell me, does he believe that footage is a real creature or is it something else? And he won't get back to me, which to me is very, very odd. Like, why would you be in a documentary and then a media person reaches out to you and you won't answer one question? It's a simple question, but I believe that Standing perhaps, I'm told, I have a source which told me that anybody can hire Jeff Meldrum for a certain price to be in any project. He'll go and he'll talk or be a part of it or whatever. So maybe it's the Todd Standing purchased some credibility in the form of Dr. Meldrum, and that's what I believe, because Todd Standing has been mentioning his involvement with Dr. Meldrum since that happened. He says things like, Dr. Meldrum trained me. And that was another question. Trained you to do what? I don't understand, you know?
Right.
But it seems to me that he does it in a name dropping kind of way. He's always mentioning his time with Survivor Man and Dr. Meldrum in an attempt to kind of gain himself some credibility, perhaps.
Yeah. I hate to consider those types of things when we're, you know, just truth junkies trying to figure out one way or the other. But I got nothing but respect for Meldrum. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way that you know, and you're right. Everyone's got a price. Like, I don't blame a guy for taking money to be a part of a documentary. Like, that's totally fine. And it's an interesting point you bring out that there is no footage in that documentary that I've seen, at least, or now that you pointed out, that he's not necessarily even fully endorsing that as legitimate footage. So
yeah. And then Todd Standing makes other claims that I haven't heard Dr. Meldrum substantiate. You know, he was out there with Todd Standing, and they're out in the dark, and something ran through the woods, and he's telling Dr. Meldrum, that's a Bigfoot. You had a Bigfoot encounter. And later, Todd Standing keeps saying, I got Dr. Meldrum to see a Bigfoot 30 feet from him. Mm-hmm. But we don't get him to say, yeah, I believe, you know, it could have been anything scurrying off in the woods, a raccoon, a deer, whatever. We don't get the endorsement of Todd Standing's claims about Dr. Meldrum. We just get sort of, like I said, this supposed credibility that he gets from being involved with the doctor of anthropology.
Sure. Yeah, and he and Bindernagel, I think, as far as I know, are the two accredited.
Yeah, from academia, they're the PhD experts. Yeah.
Not that I put all my weight into that stuff, especially the last 2 years or so, but you know, it is what it is, and you know, those are the experts we recognize as a culture or society, and it is nice to have someone that's, you know, trained. I mean, it's like Meldrum's specialty is literally like anthropological feet or like foot podiatry, I guess.
Locomotion, yeah, bipedal locomotion.
Which is like, you couldn't ask for a better person to be into this. You know, and he's in the right location for investigating this kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Like, again, all I can say is, again, I'm not one to speculate or smear or
You're very diplomatic, Bobby.
I am, because
I like that about you, though. I like that
because I like to be, you know, I like.
You're very fair. You're being very, very fair.
Yeah, but all I can do is look at the footage and just give you my opinion, and it's really, I'll put it to you this way. That said, it's very, very hard to look at this footage in a vacuum without considering all the external context of everything we've just talked about in the last 5-6 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted to give you my initial reaction to that footage initially, and then, you know, now based on everything we're saying, it's like, well, that's a lot of wrenches in the gears, right? So
yeah, and I don't know if you, I don't know if you looked at the final video. We're not going to do it here because it's kind of long, and well, but the point is, I also found additional evidence that raised a lot of questions. Like, one of Todd Standing's big other money shots is, look, I've set up these apples on a log, and the Bigfoots are taking the logs. I happened to find a random YouTuber that went on a hike with him, rode in his car with him, with another girl, and they commented that Todd Standing had a Bigfoot glove in the back seat of his truck. And that to me was kind of funny. Like, gee, I wonder how a Bigfoot hand is taking these apples off this tree. And even in the footage, you can't tell it's a Bigfoot hand, but he claims it is. You know, why would he have a Bigfoot glove in the back of his car?
If my wife is accusing me of cheating on her, why would I put, you know, a brassiere or a woman's pair of earrings in my car? You know what I mean? Like, it's like the same kind of thing, because this guy knows that he's not trusted by everyone, right?
Sure, yeah.
So it's very bold to have a Bigfoot glove in the back of your car, I guess is what I'm saying. It's dodgy, man. It just is. It is what it is. And I think, let's, one way or the other, I think just talking on hoaxing in general, it doesn't do anyone any favors. That's
Well, it does do him some favors though,
Sure.
because one thing I noticed, the other thing I noticed that gave me a great deal of concern is that since he's made this documentary, Todd Standing has reused parts of that documentary on his YouTube channel with monetized views, getting great numbers over and over and over and over again for years now. And he is also taking money from people to take them, promising them that they will have a Bigfoot encounter.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a problem with that. Like, you better have some proof that if you're charging people money to see a Bigfoot, that that's really a Bigfoot. Or to me, that would be consumer fraud or a form of it, right?
Sure.
That's my take.
I mean, is that where? I mean, where do you draw the line with that versus, like, I guess, a ghost tour? Is he actually advertising, I will show you an actual legitimate Bigfoot?
Well, he says, it's kind of like odd wording. Like, I take people out and you will have a Bigfoot encounter. What does that mean? Does that mean that somebody's going to take apples off a tree, or something's going to scurry off in the woods and he's going to say that's a Bigfoot, or you're going to hear a Bigfoot call? He's got calls
or
in
like
some of his
hearing
videos.
a story about a Bigfoot around a campfire could technically be a Bigfoot encounter.
Yeah. I mean, quite honestly, if somebody said, "Hey, you can pay $500 and you're going to see a Bigfoot," I guarantee it, I would sign up.
Yes,
probably, right? But he's not given a real guarantee.
How do you? What's your take on his whole? Didn't he try to get some policy in place in Canada to?
Yeah, he tried to sue to get it to have it become a protective species.
Do you think that's just publicity stunts?
I think that's publicity stunts. And then also, recently, he made some videos claiming that there was a group of powerful people with all kinds of equipment and money, and they were going to go shoot a Bigfoot, and he was going to be an advisor. And then he backpedaled on that and said, no, I was just, the enemy of my enemy. I was like, checking them out and looking at their plans and all of this different. It's this big, wild story. And my thing is, let me talk to that group of people. I don't think they exist. I think that he makes up stories.
It feels kind of David Wilcocky.
Hey, that's a good term. That's a good adjective. David Wilcocky, yes.
It's... And that's the thing, too, that's I feel like what's happened with the internet now. And, it's a double-edged sword, but it's almost given, I don't know, gurus or, UFO cult people or whatever. You don't have to congregate in one location. You can just harvest them from the net. Mm-hmm. And get them in a little chat like this, and here we go. Here's our congregation of the Church of the Bigfoot or whatever.
Yeah.
And it kind of preys on people's vulnerabilities or desire to believe in something, bigger than themselves or bigger than what society allows them to believe in. And at the same time, it's a great way for people that are legitimately investigating this stuff to get together and exchange information. So you just got to sift through the crap, and that's kind of what I was getting at the beginning when I was talking to you. Is like I've more or less trained myself into a realm of discernment when it comes to corporate media or advertisers and things like that, where I know when it's bullshit, because it usually is. It's not that hard once you realize, like, oh, it's basically all lies, right? At the very least, it's a shadow of the truth with an agenda behind it, right? With individuals, like you said, I'm a lot more diplomatic because I find it harder to not give individuals the benefit of the doubt. With institution, there's very little accountability there, and it's just kind of the nature of how institutions work. I want to trust people, and I guess I'm trying to develop that level of discernment when you're talking to small groups or less powerful people or less powerful groups, because they're just as prone to pulling the wool over your eyes as
absolutely,
or CNN.
One of the things that bothers me about the footage is that it would take me 3 times as much effort to prove that it's fake that it took him to create it, because maybe I'll do some recreations, but still some people will be convinced that, no, that's really a Bigfoot, that's truly a Bigfoot. Confirmation bias, wanting to believe it. Yeah.
But that's the thing too with this. Like, I guess this is kind of redundant, but you're starting from the premise of this is a Bigfoot, and then you look at it and you choose: is this a Bigfoot or is this not a Bigfoot?
Yeah.
It's not like this might be a Bigfoot. It's like, no, here it is. Here's the Bigfoot, and then it's like, well, most people are like, that's ridiculous, and then people that want to believe it are like, sure, why not? You know. If it reinforces as your confirmation bias or worldview, or, you know, I think there's a lot of hunger in these types of community. There's a lot of hunger for "see, I told you so" type stuff. Even for people that aren't trying to monetize it, people that are just, you know, I'm more or less one of them in my family. People are just like, oh, that's Bobby. He's into some kind of unorthodox things, you know.
Yeah, you're like the weird uncle that talks about conspiracies at Thanksgiving,
exactly right?
Exactly
yeah,
right. I am too. So
and every time, you know, one of my, I don't know, not even predictions, but it's like the things I say are going to happen. I'm got a pretty good track record as far as like geopolitics and things like that go. And, you know, 6 months ago, you're crazy, and then it comes around in the regular news cycle.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
about the. I noticed that. There's a 6 months. Yeah, there's a 6 month cycle now between conspiracy. Oh, that's a conspiracy. That's a nutty conspiracy too.
I think it's getting.
Oh no,
shorter.
that was true. Yeah. Definitely.
So, you know,
well, I appreciate you doing this and being so diplomatic and fair. I have tried to be fair, and I'm bringing in every expert that I could think of that I thought would be qualified to decide if this is real footage or something else. That's all I can do.
Awesome.